Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I've just come off a week of night shift and a day of traveling straight after coming off night shift, so I'm hammered, I'm cooked. But straight back into the truck. This video, I'm hoping to get this thing to a point where, registration aside, I can slap a permit on it and safely drive this wherever I want to go. It's getting close, so I've got headlights for it, I've got some tail lights to go on it, I've got to redo the wiring to the tail lights and maybe some headlight plugs. I'm going to go pick up some guards, some nice guards for this, just like semi-guards, like semi-truck, road truck, and a couple other bits and pieces. But the first up and the most important one is tyres. So these, if you remember from the video where I picked up the truck, I mentioned these tyres were fitted in 1974, so that's 50 years ago. These tyres have been in use for 50 years. They're shot, they're cracked, they're dry, there's chunks coming off this one here. They're very unsafe, so plus they've got flat spots on them as well. But anyway, they are shot. 50-year-old tyres is not something you do. So yeah, I'm going to whip these wheels off, I'm going to clean the rims up slightly and get these down to the local tyre shop and get some new rubber on these things. So let's do that. First things first though, it's currently about 34 degrees in Adelaide today. The shed's not too bad with its insulation, but it's too much. So yeah, it's I'm so glad I got those. Thanks, bud. So I wouldn't normally recommend this, but the hoist is rated for 4.5 tons, the Joel's hoist. The truck hasn't got a tray on it. There's not a huge amount in it as it sits. I just wanted to lift the whole thing high enough to get onto the axle stands without using my 2-ton trolley jack. But this makes life a lot easier. I wouldn't work under it without supports or anything, but under the hoist. It is a heavy truck, but I'm confident with what it's doing. That is so much easier than using a floor jack. Let's get these off. So for those of you that don't know too much about these Dayton rims, or spider rims as they're known, as opposed to a regular car, you've got the nuts on the center, that's your main hub, and the whole wheel, you undo these nuts and the wheel comes off. These ones you take the outer cleats off, the wheels off, wheel nuts off these cleats, and the wheel comes off, the hub stays there, and you've just got a centerless rim. So Benny knew I was going to change these wheels. Benny from Jet Ski's Garage from the last video. He knew I was getting close to changing these wheels, and he rang me a few weeks ago. He was changing a set, and he was reminded that, not through something that happened to him, but something that most people won't know when you're changing these wheels. These are under a lot of pressure, so a lot of people will rattle the nuts right off. These will be stuck on and then they'll hit the wheel and these will shoot off like a bullet pretty much. And there's a few grams of metal there and it'll do a lot of damage. So Benny was doing a set and he rang me. He said, Phil, before you do anything, just don't take the nuts all the way off, all the way around. Give the rim a smack, loosen the cleats first, don't hurt yourself. So thank you very much for reminding me of that, Benny. I have done these in the past on other trucks that I used to work on. That was 15 plus years ago, so it was a good reminder, a bit of safety. And I got my safety glasses as well, just in case. Not that those will stop much. I have been, ever since I got the truck, I've been spraying the studs occasionally with WD-40, trying to let them soak. So I've already had a crack at one and they're all pretty loose, so that's handy, but I probably should have done this while the wheel was still on the ground. So I'll have a better look once these are all cleaned up. I'll go over these with a wire brush and have a good look at that. Give them a quick bit of paint as well before the wheels go back on. But there's a bit of a chamfer on each of these, and there's a opposing chamfer on the wheels. They just sit snugly against there. So it's a bit of a tricky one getting the wheel back on and getting it in exactly the right place. There is a trick to centering the wheel. Again, we'll go over that later, but these will clean up all right. The studs are all good. That was a lot easier than I thought. Back ones might be a different story, but let's do that now. You've still got a nut holding a cleat, but the cleat's more of a wedge than the on the front. It just sort of clamps it on the outside. On these ones, and I'll pull one off and show you, they wedge in between the hub and the wheel. You've also got these wheel nuts hold both tyres or both rims on. You've just got a spacer, a corrugated spacer, which you'll see in a minute, between the two wheels. So it's been a very, very long time since I've done one of these, and I'd say these are the ones that probably jam in a lot more than the front. So these could be the bad ones, the dangerous ones. So because I forgot to loosen the wheel nuts while the truck was on the ground, and the way the park brake works on this, it locks the diff center, so the wheels are still free to turn, I have to wedge the wheels. And this looks like the easiest way to do it. They weren't incredibly tight, but they could have, they had a fair bit of pressure behind them. So that's the wedge shape there. So these wheels are going to be interesting to put back on. But yeah, that wedge is between the hub and the wheel. So there you've got your corrugated spacer. I believe this wheel should just pop straight off. But it won't. Come on. And there you have it, Dayton slash Spider hub. There are ways of converting the front to a regular hub. So you've just got like a 10 stud hub, so you can put like an L color aluminium rim on there, which is pretty cool. Or a regular, like an F6, F500 wheel. I do like the way these look. Now that the diff, I've sorted the high and low ratio issue with the diff, I'm keen to take it out for a drive and see how it actually goes in high ratio. If it's still way too low, I'm gonna have to look at changing the diff, so I'll lose, unless I can find an old school truck that's got these wheels but a different ratio, which is pretty much impossible, I believe. The easiest way to go is put something like a Hino truck, 8-ton Hino truck rear axle in there. But at the moment I want to keep it as it is, so we'll see how it goes. But I'll clean these hubs up and the drums. There is a newish looking, well, it has been sealed at some stage around here, so it's been looked after. There is a little bit of slop in this diff, but not a huge amount. I'm going to get the rest of these wheels off, strap them on the trailer and get them to the tyre place, because it's getting a bit late in the afternoon. That's how these wheels work anyway. So I had the front hub painted, one hub painted, ready to go. I had the wheels outside painted, ready to go. So I had to put this one on just to have a look at what I'm working with. And I'm really happy. I'm stoked how that's come out. I went over the wheels with the wire brush on the grinder and the drill. I went over the hubs with the wire brush, cleaned them up as much as I can, and painted the wheels with spray paint. Ideally they'll be powder coated or properly painted, but they're going to get marked, they're going to get scratched. This was just to make them look tidy so I could use it. Same with the hub, but it's actually come up a lot better than I thought. That's Dulux Gloss Machinery Grey on the rim. I thought it was going to be darker. I was originally looking for something similar to the body color, but no one does an off-the-shelf spray paint at short notice that matches that. So I went for a dark grey, and it's come out like a nice bright grey. But I think it actually looks really good with the black and the grey. We've got the truck grey, and the hub is just rust guard satin black epoxy paint, I think. But yeah, that should be pretty durable. But I reckon that looks fantastic compared to what it was at the farm dirt. But yeah, I'm stoked with that. I'm still cleaning up the back half. That's dragging on a little bit. But I'm motivated now, I'm enthusiastic now. I've got that sitting there and I can see it. I'm really keen to get these back ones on. So I'm gonna carry on with that. Got the aircon going. It's very, very high 20s, but muggy as Adelaide's cooked at the moment. Yeah, so I'll put my PPE on and carry on. So I cut those U-bolts off the leaf spring there. May seem like a risky move, cutting off U-bolts where I don't have anything to put back on just yet. But they were pretty well seized in there. They weren't coming off easily, and I want to change the height of the spring as well, the spring pack. So I've taken the, as you saw, I took the overload springs off, and I want to take a couple of leaves out as well. So on the recommendation of Benny, I went down to a place called Safety Steer in Adelaide this morning. Safety Steer. They do truck suspension, steering, all that sort of work. But they also custom make U-bolts for leaf springs. Benny said, go give those guys a go. They do that stuff. Take your measurements down there and they'll sort you out. So I did that. I went down there, saw the guys, very, very helpful, very friendly, and gave them the measurements. They worked some things out, said go get a coffee, come back in 5 minutes, and I had 4 brand new U-bolts made to size with bolts and nuts. All up for these with the nuts and washers, $237, which is very, very fair. I'm happy with those. So that makes me feel a lot better about cutting these other U-bolts off and getting these springs done. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to cut the other ones off. I've got to clean up a few bits for painting. The clamps that hold the back wheels on, I've got to clean those up and paint those. I might pull these leaf spring packs apart and have a look at those, clean those as well and paint those. But the hubs they're all done. I did those last night, they're all ready to go. But the leaf springs are the next one. I want to get those done because I want to get those wheels back on the truck tonight. And I won't have time to do the guards or anything else I wanted to do this week on the truck, but I've got the guards here ready to go for next time and some other bits and pieces. So let's get these springs done. I want to cut these last two U-bolts. I've done the other side. That's a very, very heavy diff, and it's a heavy truck. Truck's not too bad. The back half of the chassis, now it's bare, is pretty light. But when I cut those, I can't see the diff rotating on the axle stands underneath those springs. So I'm going to get the engine crane and I'm just going to tie it to this rear cross member here and take the weight of this, because I am going to have to lift the chassis off the diff to get those leaf springs out, or to clean them up, change them around, that do all the work on the leaf springs. So I'll set that up now and carry on. When I pulled the overload springs off the other side of the diff leaf spring pack, the nut on the bolt that holds the main pack, so you've got a bolt that goes up through the center which keeps all the leaves together, the nut on the top of that was corroded solid to the bolt. There was no way I could get that, so I was going to have to cut that. This one, surprisingly, I managed to get it, as you saw. I had to use the long lever bar, and but it came through. Surprisingly, there's a fair bit of tension on these leaf springs. I know how springs work, and I was expecting a little bit, but not that much. There's no weight on anything at the moment. I haven't got any pressure on the engine crane. I haven't got the hoist holding the chassis or anything like that, and the diffs on stands. So that one I was quite surprised. The other side, when I cut through it with the grinder, it flew. So I had the safeties on. But when I was down at safety stair getting the U-bolts for the diff, I also got a couple of the bolts that go through the center of the leaf packs. So I was quite happy cutting that one off the other side. I came prepared. What I have to do now is, so there's still the main bolt through the center of that leaf pack. I want to take out two of the smaller springs, the bottom springs. So what I have to do is lift the chassis high enough so I can either pull that bolt all the way out, or I can cut it somewhere in between and do it in pieces, which is going to be a hassle. The only thing stopping me lifting the diff, the frame all the way off the diff, is you can just see it through there, is the brake line. So I'll disconnect that from the chassis, but it's still a solid brake line with about that much rubber hose. So that could prove to be a bit of an issue. But I'm just going to lift it now and see how much room that gives me, and see how the springs behave when I do that. So I might be able to work around that. I'll see what happens there. We'll try that. Well, that was an absolute mission, getting that bolt out through all those springs. It sort of happened really, really quickly, just really awkwardly. But I've cleaned up the springs that I'm using, the leaves. There's two leaves there, which are the ones I'm leaving out. So now I'll try putting these ones back together and then get the other side. I gave those a quick clean up with a wire brush. Nothing too fantastic, but they look a lot better. But yeah, I want to try and get this side together now. We'll see how that goes out. So the driver's side springs all together. I didn't record that. It is exactly the same as this side, except for splitting a 4-inch G-clamp in half. Very uneventful, but once I'd done this side, I sort of knew what I was in for, so that side went together pretty easily. I've got the bolts in, they're all tightened up, they're all put anti-seize on them, cut them down reasonable to length. There's not much else now to do apart from drop it down and see what happens. We'll see how. So we'll drop it down, clear the hoist out of the way. That's the G-clamp that decided it didn't want to play anymore. Hoist is out of the way, everything else is good. The diff has rotated slightly, and the truck's a bit off center. But I'll drop it down on the engine crane now and we'll see what we're left with. So that's it sitting down on the pads on the diff at the moment. I haven't got the U-bolts in because two of the brackets that sit under the diff that the U-bolts go through, the old U-bolts are seized in them. So I've got those soaking, and hopefully tomorrow they'll free up and I can get those in, but there's no weight on the engine crane at the moment. It's all sitting on the diff. Couple of things. The tyres, I said it had the bigger tyres on the back. The front tyres were actually smaller than the back ones when I picked it up. So the rears were 9.00 by, well, 9 by 20s, so a 20-inch rim. And it's a real old school measurement for truck tyres. And the fronts were 8.25 by 20s. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, and on paper it's only 15-20 mil difference. When you put them side by side, and when everything's together, I'll bring the spare wheel, which has still got the old tyre on it, and you'll set it next to it and you'll see just what a difference that makes. So that and 2 leaves out of each side has got this sitting almost right at the moment. With the smaller tyres, however, I'm not sure how it's going to go with the diff and high ratio, but with the smaller diameter tyres, this may affect things a bit too much. I don't know just yet. I'll live with it for now and won't do any interstate trips until I get things changed. But other than that, it's almost 10 o'clock at night now. I've done a bit of banging, hitting this thing. I've annoyed the neighbours enough. I've only got a few hours of work tomorrow. So tomorrow I want to get those U-bolts on, get everything tightened up there. And the rims are painted, the wheels are done for the back. This spacer plate, that's all painted. I've got the clamps for the wheel nuts painted. Everything's ready to go. I won't have time to put the guards on, unfortunately, this time around, but I should be able to have this thing sitting on the ground tomorrow if I pull my finger up, and might be able to get it outside and have a look and have a bit of a clean up in here. But for now, I'm gonna have a shower and go to bed because I'm knackered. But I'm also very, very happy with how this is sitting. Okay, so the next day, back in the shed. Fair bit to do in a short amount of time. Got to get these U-bolts freed up, cleaned up, bit of paint on them, get those on there, then I can put the wheels on, drop this thing down. Sounds easy, but there's things I got to clean up and tidy up and modify the whole way through. So I'll get done what I can. Fingers crossed we get there. When I mentioned last night, when I said there's a couple of things, and I was talking about the reduced tyre size and the diff ratios and that sort of thing. The other thing I forgot to mention, now that I've taken a couple of springs out, I don't know how soft this ride's going to be. It's lowered it a little bit, which is perfect. I'm not sure on the, they've taken the short springs out, but they do affect the ratings. The capacity should still be fine because these are really heavy springs designed for a heavy load, and I'm only putting max 2 tons on the back plus the weight of the frame. So until that's on and the car's sitting on there, I don't know what it's going to do. I am going to put shocks on the back of this. This truck never came out with shocks from the factory just because of the load rating of those springs. If you've ever driven one of these, the guys that have driven these will know how much they bounce when they're unloaded. I've taken a lot of that bounce out with the springs. Now it's, you know what it's like when you take the shocks out of the back of your car and you push on the car and it sort of takes a while to settle. I'm expecting a little bit of that. So I'm going to put some proper full-size truck springs, shocks, on the back of this truck. So I will have to make brackets for the diff and the chassis at some stage to put those on. The other thing is, chances are I'll end up putting airbag helper springs on the back of this. I'd love to take the leaf springs out altogether, put a 4-link in it, like a massive 4-link and full airbag so I can drop the back right down. Then I have to do engineering, and I've already got those 2 sitting over there and waiting for engineering, and I don't want to do that to this truck. But my F350 that I built 18 plus years ago, I'll put a picture up here. You guys have seen that before. I've put pictures up before. I had to put airbag helper springs on that when I had the car on the back of it. So until I've got the tray built and the car sitting on there, I don't know what it's going to do. But for now, I am going to put shocks on it to compensate for any spring modifications. But that'll be later on down the track. For now, I just want to get these U-bolts on, get these wheels on, get this thing sitting on the ground, get it outside and have a look. So let's do that. That'll be all for this video. We've got a fair bit done. It doesn't seem like a lot, ticking off the list kind of stuff, but first time this truck's had new tyres in 50 years, going by the paperwork that's in the dash. But a fair bit of work cleaning up those rims. That doesn't come through on the video, just how much time I spent sorting those out, and there's 6 of the damn things. But yeah, it's got new tyres, first time in a long time. The springs, that was a reasonable job, time consuming. I've forgotten what it's like to work on stuff of this scale after playing with cars for a long, long time. I used to work on trucks before I did mining, road trucks back in the day. I'm very happy how it's sitting. It's almost level. There's a little bit of rake, which is fine because it's going to have a load on it. So by the time I get a deck on everything, it looks good. I'm very happy with that. The wheels came up sweet. I'm stoked with those. As you'll see sitting outside, it makes a big difference to its appearance. So next video, something I've been meaning to do this video and last video, I just ran out of time. I do have new headlights for this, as I've mentioned, and I've got tail lights, I've got the wiring, I've got the relays, I've got everything to do that. So the next video on the truck will be all the lights, and I'll probably knock up a rear bar that I can hook the car trailer to. I also have a pair of guards for this truck sitting here as well, just plastic semi-type guards, but I've got to put those on as well for so I can drive this thing on the road. So lights, guards, bit of wiring, and that'll be that one. So this video will be out just before Christmas, hopefully. A lot of you will be on holiday already. A lot of you will be working through Christmas. I'll be working through Christmas away, Christmas and New Year's. That's fairly standard for me. I've been doing that for a long time. If you are working, keep an eye on your workmates, keep an eye on each other. It's a bit of a shit time for those of us that are away. I'm kind of dead to it, I suppose. That sounds terrible, but it's not a thing for me. But a lot of people it is. They're away from friends and family, and it's a hard time. So if you are working, even if it's just in the city or something, the guys you're working with, the people that come in and see you, look after them, say hello, check on each other, make sure you're all right. The last few months at work for me have been pretty tough. There's been a few changes going on and I've had a few things come down on me, and I'm sort of struggling a little bit with it, but I'm getting through it, and I've got a lot of good people looking out for me and checking on me regularly. So including a couple of you, which I hugely appreciate. But make sure you do that for everyone else. And if you've got something going on, talk to someone. There's always someone around that's happy to listen, and it makes a big difference. But have a really good Christmas. Take care on the roads, take care at home. Don't fall off ladders, don't fall in swimming pools, don't trip over and hurt yourself, don't drink too much. Well, you know. Anyway, have a really good Christmas, have a good break, and I will catch you really soon with more on one of those three. Take care, guys.